What's up, y'all? This is Chris Burkhardt, and I'm so grateful to be launching this new film, INAKA, which basically means countryside in Japanese. And the concept behind this film, which is a little bit different than maybe your typical just snowboard shred edit, is that for the last 4 years I've been traveling to this rural part of Hokkaido, which is the Iwanai area. And in this area, people still live off the land, and they're still really connected to the mountains and the fishing. And there's this one rad old resort that back in the day was thriving, and people used to go there. And then basically, because of economic crisis, that kind of dissipated. And what this film is about is really sort of the resurgence of this small fishing villages and the way that these people are connected to the landscape, and really kind of their pride in their home mountain, which in Iwanai, when you're looking out from the peak, you see the ocean, you can see squid boats. It's a really beautiful environment. And I was able to take the Billabong Adventure Division team out there, Worm, Bode, and Wolfgang, and basically allow them to experience this location. Some of them had experienced it before, some of them had never been there, and it was wild to basically be riding this terrain that's so fun and so unique with not another soul around. Incredible backcountry touring, incredibly fun features, kind of like having your own playground, because nearby, and just a couple hours drive, there's the mega resorts, and there's kind of the places that Hokkaido is really popular for. But I think that we travel in hopes of having a more connected experience. For me, it's never really been going or ticking off, stamps on my passport, going to as many places as I can. It's about going back. It's about going back somewhere that you fostered a connection with the people. It's about seeing the same people and understanding what they're dealing with, understanding, what they're trying to push forward through in their environmental initiatives, and really just understanding what makes them operate the way they do. And for me, that's why Iwanai has a special place in my heart. That's why Hokkaido and Japan in general is a place that I've traveled back to year after year after year. And sadly, this year, not going to be able to go, but being able to release this film is going to be such an awesome thing, so that when we can travel again, we seek out places that maybe aren't just all about, going somewhere to shred or going somewhere to have this, cookie cutter adventure, like somewhere that gives us more insight into the actual place, into the people, and maybe somewhere that's not fully set up for tourism, where you can go and really have a true cultural experience. And that's really what this film is about. And INAKA, again, it means kind of rural, it means countryside, and that's what we decided to name this film after. I was able to work alongside the DP and director of this film, Eli Thor, an Icelandic surf photographer who basically brought all his experience of years snowboarding and being in cold weather and his intrinsically Icelandic, kind of Scandinavian style to the edit. The music was even scored by some Icelandic artists, and we really wanted to bring I guess you could say a non-Westerner perspective to making this film, just kind of a total foreigner's view, which was really rad. In addition to that, working with those three athletes, Wolfgang, Bode, and Worm, was incredible. Like, to be honest, I've traveled all over the world with some of the best athletes you can imagine, and there's a limited amount of people who are willing to go and jump in a 6 mil wetsuit and surf in freezing cold water on honestly one of the most blizzardy, gnarly days I've ever experienced. Like, these guys were so willing, and they were so psyched. The waves were terrible, but on the one down day we had, that's what we did. And every day they were on it. And what was so cool was actually seeing their creativity, right? Sometimes when you're able to work with a new athlete, your desire to work with them is from a place of, how will they interpret this place, And Wolfgang would draw these really beautiful flowy lines, and Bode would be looking for these incredible features, where you could like bonk off this, and then Worm was basically just like the all-around mascot, like psyched to do anything, psyched to go big, would go until he landed it, until his body broke. So for me, this film is a really special experience. It's kind of a culmination of my favorite thing in the world, which is to bring together an eclectic crew of artists and athletes to a location that's maybe new or inspiring, and really see them thrive, right? See them connect with this place, and in some way hope that they foster the same appreciation or love for this place that I do. And I'm just so grateful to be releasing this film to you right now. INAKA, here we go. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'm really stoked. Hopefully you'll stay after for some questions, flies, from the team, and they're gonna sit back and kind of answer a couple of your questions about the edit. And yeah, stay tuned. Cheers.
Iwanai は私のふるさとである。田舎町である。僻地であるIwanaiは海に面した漁師町である。確かに、そうですね。漁師町ですね。ただそれともう一ついいとこはやはり山もあり海もある。これが上から見た眺めは本当に北海道でも3本の指に入ると言われるIwanai特有のいいとこではないかと思います。Iwanaiばかりでない、人口減少っていうのは、北海道、あと内地の方どこでもそうなんですけども、やはりこういう田舎っていうのは働くまず仕事がないっていうのがまず第一の、原因だと思います。だからやっぱり都会って言って職がないからやっぱりそっちのにまずは出ていくっていう、それが大きな要因だと思います。 まあそうですね、まあ都会は都会なりのいいところもあるんですけども、まあ田舎は田舎としてやっぱり都会のようななんていうのかな、もう生活していくのはもう忙しいっていうか、もう時間に追われて働いていくっていう、そういう面から見ると言わないっていうのはやっぱりそんなギクシャクしないで、まあ、マイペース的に生活していける、まあこれが田舎のいいとこっていうか、そういうなんていうのかな、生活していくのにはやっぱりそれなりのギクシャクしない、そういういいとこがあるのかなと思います。田舎っていうのはやはり都会と違って一人一人隣近所がとにかく親戚のような付き合いっていうか、まあ都会は本当に隣の家は誰かも知らない。でも田舎はもう隣同士が力を合わせていろんなことに、協力して生活していくっていう。それがまあ田舎のいいとこであり田舎だと思います。
I'm so happy! I'm so happy! Oh, Bode, I was hoping for exactly that.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you liked INAKA. I wanted to tell you a quick story, and then I wanted to turn the time over to the rest of the crew to answer some of your questions. One thing that came through, because there was a couple funny questions, was what was the weirdest food you ate, right? You don't really leave Japan without an interesting food story. And definitely the weirdest food that was eaten, I didn't eat it. I just couldn't pull myself to do it, was cod sperm. And yes, you heard that right, actual sperm from an actual cod. It was on a little dish. It was passed around at dinner, and I don't even think they mentioned what it was, but it was pretty next level disgusting. Looked like mayonnaise or something like that. And then the other question was, who's the narrator, right? And this is one of my favorite things, because we were looking for a traditional Japanese person from the town who didn't speak English and just had a really thick accent, and it was the lifty from the resort. Actually, there's one chair that still runs at the resort. It's like a tiny chair just for kids to do snow school, like ski school, basically rip down the mountain. It like takes you like, maybe like 500 feet up, right? And it is like the most mellow, rad lift. And this classic guy has like a homemade broom that he like brushes off the seats with, the lifts, and goes up. And he was our dude. He's the guy giving the shaka in the beginning of the film. And that was who did all the narration. He's lived in Iwanai his whole life, and Dad was a fisherman. Dad before that was a fisherman. Everything. So it was kind of rad to get his real, authentic perspective from that. Anyway, I'm going to turn the time over to the guys, Bode, Wolle, and Worm, to basically answer some questions and to really kind of dive deep into like what the terrain was like and everything. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. See y'all soon. Cheers.
Hey everybody,
What's happening? Are we live? Live and direct from Austria. Thanks for watching the movie. INAKA, what a piece. It was such an awesome trip to get to go with that crew to Japan. So really stoked to see the final film come out. Thanks for everybody involved. Special thanks to the Iwanai crew for hosting us. What a rad place. I always loved Japan, and this trip again didn't disappoint. So I have the pleasure to answer some of your questions here, and yeah, let's kick it out. So the first question is from Lugazen. How did you feel the first time you wrote down Iwanai? I mean, when you go to Japan, your expectations are not that you're gonna ride the biggest peaks of the world, but more the kind of the most beautiful tree runs you can find with some of the best snow in the world. And Iwanai doesn't disappoint. When we got up there for the first time, you could straight see the awesome side country they have. So we're really hyped on the zone for sure. The next one, at D Purcell. How did the squad go about picking a location like Iwanai? I want to plan a trip like this, but I don't know where to start. So the trip, Chris hooked everything up. He knew the locals, he skied there before, and yeah, it seemed like the perfect snowboard location. So to be close to the water, and I mean, the top of the peak is just mind-blowing. It has those natural features, and you can see the coastline. Some days you could see the perfect A-frame running in. So like, it kind of seemed one of those spots where you could have the best of both worlds, you know? So that was all on Chris. And then for Japan in general, where you want to go, it's so easy to travel around, really. You just need to follow your nose, you know, where whatever you like, just go there, stay a couple days, 3-4 days, and change locations. There is too many spots to name right here, just on Hokkaido alone to find out. But that area is definitely a good place to start. Okay, next one, at Scuba Steve. Snowboarding in Japan is like doing it blindfolded. From the language barrier to the remote landscape, you never know what's around the corner. How did you guys navigate and know where to go in some of the best powder in the world? So for our trip, for the first week, we stayed put in Iwanai and just enjoyed the mountain there. And after that, we roamed around in the vicinity of Niseko to all those roadside spots. You just basically park the car and hike wherever you want to go. Overall, Japan is one of those special countries where you could go out completely blindfolded and trust the people to bring you back home, you know, one of the nicest people in the world. So if there is one place on earth where you want to get lost, Japan's the place. At bift.it98, what was your favorite part of the trip, but was also least expected? So I guess the least expected was that we were asked to bring surfboards and wetsuits. We're supposed to go surfing, so we're always down to have some time in the water, but usually on snowboard trips you not get to do that. Our first day when we tried to get out though was the craziest onshore and snowstorm you can only imagine. Somehow we like wanted to try out the wetsuits and see if they're warm enough, you know, in that cold conditions, and we was just sitting out there in like pretty small onshore waves, but the snowstorm was so crazy that at one point you was out in the water and you couldn't even see your friends anymore and couldn't see the land for, you know, a minute or so. So that was kind of crazy, but you still felt warm and it was an awesome experience. So it takes away the fear of cold water for sure. And then in the end of the trip, we scored some surf as well. So in really beautiful light. So that was an awesome experience for sure. Always rad to go surfing.
Hello everybody, Bode Merrill here. Thank you for sitting down and watching INAKA. That was the world premiere of our short film that we spent 2 weeks in Japan for. Riding powder, surfing a little bit, and it was a pretty cool experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed the film, And thank you for commenting, sharing, and liking everything on Instagram, Facebook. Appreciate that. Thank you for submitting some questions. And I picked a few of my favorites that I'm going to answer right now. All right, first question comes from @Julian Jogems. Hopefully I said that right, but I probably butchered it, so I apologize, but appreciate you sending your question in. He wants to know, how hard was it to go from snowboarding to surfing in terms of how cold you felt, and who complained the most about getting into the cold water? So going from snowboarding to surfing, it was freezing on the in-between parts. Like snowboarding, we're always moving around, hiking, moving, snowboarding, so we're usually pretty warm, especially with all our gear on. And once we got into the water in our wetsuits, we were fine. It was like pretty warm out there actually, because the air was much colder than the water. So when we were in the water, we were fine. And after paddling around for a while, like we were almost hot. Took my hood off and everything and was dunking my head, and it was actually pretty nice out there. But when we got out of the water, it was snowing sideways, complete blizzard, and freezing cold. So when we're in wet wetsuits in a snowstorm, trying to get them off and get into warm clothes and get our core temperature back up, that was the hardest part for sure, was the in-between moments. So yeah, the wetsuits worked great, especially with the ones with the graphene in them. The new ones are incredible. So we were super warm actually surfing, but yeah, once we were trying to get them off, we were almost dying. But we got in the car and warmed up, blasted the heat, and we were fine. Who complained the most about getting into the cold water? I'd have to say Wolle. Sorry, Wolle. I don't think he wanted to go surfing at all. The surf was not very good. It was blowing all over the place, and he didn't want to go at all. He was pretty bummed. But again, once he got into the water, he was actually paddling around, and we were all having fun, and he got some waves, and I think he was chilling again. So yeah, thank you, Julian Jogems, for your question. All right, next question comes from @Nora Talty. Thank you for your question, Nora. She wants to know if I have any strategies on starting young and becoming successful. So when I started snowboarding, I just fell in love with it immediately, and that's all I wanted to do. So that drive is what helped me progress and get better. And the success happened way later down the road, but I was just so in love with snowboarding that that's all I wanted to do. So yeah, I think in a lifestyle sport like snowboarding or surfing for that matter, I think if you go into it with the only goal of being successful at it, I think that you're gonna have a lot harder time finding that success. Because in my opinion, I think the success is just the byproduct of the love and passion that you have for something. So yeah, I guess my advice would be just find something that you're passionate about and success will follow. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope you find success in whatever you choose to do. Thanks. Got another question here from @Colin D. Watt. Thank you for your question, Colin. He wants to know, who sucks the most at surfing? Me, Wolle, or Worm? 100% that's me. I'm a terrible, terrible surfer. Wolle and Worm, those guys are really good at surfing, and they saved the video in that regard. I don't think there's any surfing shots of me in the video. Maybe one paddling around or something, but those guys did all the heavy lifting in that department, so appreciate you guys. Maybe one day I'll be good enough to get a shot in a surfing video, but I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. But appreciate your question, Colin. Thanks.
Hey everyone, this is Garrett Warnick. I wanted to say thanks for checking out the premiere of INAKA, and I hope you liked the film. This question is from @Loturley, and it was, when did you feel the most alive during the trip? And for me, easily, that was when we went surfing in the snow. It was dumping snow. There was like a foot of snow on the beach that we had to walk through, and just coming up to the beach and being like, oh yeah, we're going surfing in this. And then doing it was definitely when I felt the most alive. Ice cream headaches like crazy, but also this total sense of adrenaline being in the Japanese Ocean with just crazy waves coming up and dark blue sea and snow falling out of the sky. I mean, the ramen after that too, those two events together was definitely where I felt most alive. Carson K. Lunt, and it's what clip took the longest this season? Not just attempts, but to build too. Our biggest build down there was definitely this big pillow feature. And then attempts wise, you know, on these powder trips, sometimes you don't always get a ton of tries to try something, just how it is with the snow conditions and with time. So I think the day that we built that big feature and sessioned it, you know, that's where we did the most of attempts. But a lot of other times you get to an area and you realize, okay, I might only get 3 tries before we have to go, before the sun sets, before the snow's out. So depending on the session, you don't always get those, you know, endless attempts. This question's from @Jeffries10. What surprised you or interested you the most about the people of Iwanai? And I think just how open the people of Iwanai are to us as foreigners that come in, that have like completely different cultural backgrounds and everything else. They're really warm people, and even though there's a massive language barrier, everybody is curious and interested about the other person's backgrounds and beliefs, and there's a way to kind of communicate and connect with people based on those things that I think is really interesting and amazing. This question is from @Duncan_travel. What was it like filming in such a small local town? Did it feel like the back end of Hokkaido? And yeah, it definitely did. We'd been other places in Hokkaido and seen the tourism and how many people go there to ski. Iwanai was not like that. We were in a fishing village and you could tell. And the one thing I say was amazing about that is that people weren't sick of foreigners. We were still excited to mingle and share ideas and connect any way we could, which I think is different than some of those really busy areas that are just like, they're sick of seeing tourists. So Iwanai was an amazing place to visit.